Well, hello everyone. Happy Monday. Man, are we off to a crazy start with the week. It's like even the weekend just had a barrage of news that was playing out. So we're going to get into some of the drama that is unfolding that I think is what's impacting cryptocurrency. If you've noticed today, the prices for cryptocurrency are down, and that's at odds with what you're seeing with the stock market. Even though they've been trading with high correlation, you're seeing crypto go down a little bit today. I think because of two factors: concerns about a possible bank run on one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges, FTX, that has been unfolding, questions of solvency, and also we are going to be talking about the LBRY case against SEC that is setting a precedent potentially that could be quite negative for pretty much every coin potentially that is not Bitcoin. We're going to get into that, talk about the second largest financial seizure of all time ever in the United States, or pretty much anywhere, and that is actually crypto related. So we're going to be taking a look at that and plenty more. Grab yourself a nice seat, a nice beverage. It's exciting to be here with you. Thank you so much to those of you who support Patreon, YouTube sponsorships. Shout out to the first two sponsors here on YouTube, New Tribes and Azam Zafar. Thank you so very much for that. And Marcel also for upping your donation. Your tip means a lot. But whatever you guys can do, just showing up is super invaluable to me. So let's go ahead and dive right in, since we have quite a bit to get through, and I want to make sure that you guys, as always, are as informed as possible. So, hey, what's up? What's up, everybody in the chat? Hey, Meredith, Koa, Renee, Dreamcatchers, Bitcoin Jake, and anyone else that I'm missing here. So when we're looking at the prices, you're seeing Bitcoin actually trending down a little bit. It looks like it's aiming for 20,000 again. Luckily, it's still over that. It's down 1.7% over the last 24 hours, but it does seem to still be speeding up the direction to the downside. It was pretty much flat earlier in the day, but now it is dropping. We have Ethereum down 0.6%. To me, it's interesting though that you have Bitcoin down more than some of the altcoins, which is a little bit surprising. Although if you're looking here, you'll notice that one big shift, I guess you could say, has happened. Solana has dropped out of the top 10 place, has been overtaken by Matic. You can see there that Solana is now in 11th place. Kind of surprising to me that it took that long for it to kind of fall off, considering it's had, what, 9 times that it has basically paused the blockchain and had to resume it because of various issues. But I digress. Market cap still over $1 trillion for cryptos. Not looking too bad just yet, but we do have to monitor some of what's going on to get a little bit more of a say about directionality. There's someone who's not extremely bullish, which is surprising because of some of his remarks on where Ethereum was going to be headed. But that's Arthur Hayes, of the BitMEX founder, what was previously the largest exchange. Over time, it's been the biggest leverage exchange for Bitcoin cryptocurrencies. Arthur Hayes wrote, when you lend money to the US government at close to 5% for 1 year, for 12 months, a lot of other investments cease to make sense. The crypto credit carnage will claim more victims. Bear Stearns equals Luna, Three Arrows Capital, Celsius. Who will be the Lehman, like the Lehman Brothers? And so he took a look at this yield here on the 12-month, which does seem to be climbing. He also cryptically wrote, I know y'all might think I'm talking in riddles. I don't have a clue. I just know there will be more bodies, and it probably won't be the obvious answer. So what is this obvious answer that he is talking about? We're going to dive right into that. I found 2 sources that really sum up a lot of the drama that, again, is unfolding right now. A feud between 2 of the giants, 2 of the dragons in crypto, the leaders of some of the largest exchanges, CZ of Binance and Sam Bankman-Fried of Alameda, a crypto hedge fund, I guess you could call them, and the exchange FTX. Thank you so much, Nickel. I've been much better, man. I've been well, and I thank you so much for that. I hope you're doing super well with your show too. We have to catch up. I appreciate that tip, brother. So let's start off with what started to play out. So people started to notice that there was a huge deposit into Binance of this FTT token, which is FTX Exchange's token, and started tracing it. And it was confirmed, in fact, that it was Binance's holding of this other exchange's token. So here wrote CZ of Binance, the head of it, yesterday. He wrote, as part of Binance's exit from FTX equity last year, they were an investor in FTX, it turns out. Binance received roughly $2.1 billion USD equivalent in cash, BUSD, and FTT. Due to recent revelations that have come to light, we've decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books. We will try to do so in a way that minimizes market impact due to market conditions and limited liquidity. We expect this will take a few months to complete. So imagine downward pressure on that FTT token over time from someone who has an entity that has a huge stake in it. Binance always encourages collaboration between industry players. Regarding any speculation as to whether this is a move against a competitor, it is not. Our industry is in its nascency, and every time a project publicly fails, it hurts every user and every platform. We typically hold tokens for a long term, and we have held on to this token for this long. We stay transparent with our actions. So what is going on here? Looks a little bit like one exchange kicking another while they may be down, while some of their reputation seems to be called into question. So this was summed up briefly here on this Reddit post that I found for you guys by Ilani005. He wrote, FTX only represents like 1/10 of Sam Bankman-Fried's kingdom's revenue. Most has been made by aggressive trading strategies at Alameda, which has been accused of playing quite dirty against users, against other companies, against many people in order to make profit. FTX has been trading on that revenue to prop up and build FTX Exchange by trading Alameda's tether for FTX's FTT token. FTT has zero utility though, and there's virtually zero demand for it. Whereas with BNB, you have all of the added utility of paying for goods and services with projects built on Binance Chain, BNB Chain. So unlike BNB, FTT is an illiquid asset, and now the tethered coffers at Alameda are bare. FTX and Alameda have now been reduced to flywheel/circle jerk trading, FTT back and forth to create the illusion of value, liquidity, and revenue. This was uncovered by a CoinDesk report this week and built on research by Dirty Bubble Media. A lot of people don't know this, but CZ actually incubated FTX 2 years ago. They wouldn't be here today without Binance. Then a year ago, Binance decided decided to cash out. It turns out that they were paid $2.4 billion by Sam in Tether and FTT. That should have set off alarm bells for CZ though. Why would he accept FTT instead of straight Tether? Now we know why. Sam desperately needed to keep the value of FTT inflated in order to continue attracting outside investors with inflated valuations based on FTT holdings, in part to get real cash injected. Now CZ has seen the evidence that FTT is just a massive circle jerk / flywheel scheme, so he noped out of it and started to sell his position so that he wasn't left holding bags. It's now fascinating but not surprising now that Alameda offered to buy all of Binance's FTT tokens, you'll see in a moment, in a closed door deal for $22. Because if CZ sells it, as he had said in the previous tweet thread that we had shown of CZ, because if CZ sells it on the open market, the price of FTT will begin to fall, and it will have that pressure over the next few months while they liquidate those holdings. Will be interesting to see how CZ plays this. On the one hand, another major project failing is bad for the industry. On the other hand, it has become blatantly apparent that FTX is not a force for good in the industry, and we might be better in the long run if bad actors fail fast. Also, it's not a good look for the industry if CZ agrees to skirt the free market and agrees to this backdoor deal. Those types of deals are anti-competitive and therefore anti-user. So, I mean, this is obviously quite biased. I'm going to show you another thread that is a little bit more objective with what's going on here. But before I do that, I will point at this article that was written by Dirty Bubble Media, and I'm not going to read too much of that because I think it's summed up in the next thread we'll be looking at, but feel free to check it out for yourself. It is super interesting in some of the details that it gets into, but basically they do show this example of what might be going on here that we see with FTT token, FTX and Alameda creating this token or trading this token back and forth through this flywheel scheme, which is what they're constantly being looked at as doing. So create token, pump token price, mark gains to balance sheet, show gains to investors, raise cash through equity sales or loans, pump token price again using that money, and so on and so forth, and keep doing that to create some sort of infinite money generation scheme. And that, some are saying, and that's what this article is saying, is what was going on with this token to make it appear like it was great to get investment and to continue to pump it as long as they have. So another way of summing this up was done by Miles Deutscher, which he has some great sources here I think you're going to enjoy. So Sam Bankman-Fried was once admired as the king of crypto. Now Alameda and FTX are rumored to be on the brink of insolvency, which would be quite bad. We don't know how bad for the cryptocurrency space if this was supposed to be the case, that they, or if it is the case that they do go down. But we saw recently with Three Arrows Capital what could happen if you had this crypto contagion affecting a bunch of other companies, because all these companies are basically now tethered together. They have different credit lines with each other, and it creates issues for all of them when especially a huge player like this goes down. So it is something that we should be paying attention to. So anyway, here's how it all went wrong for SBF and FTX. For a long time, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, was idolized in the space, famous for his arbitrage trading, founding FTX and Alameda, hugely successful investments like Solana. Sam accrued an impressive estimated net worth of $10 to $14.5 billion at his peak. Pretty huge. In recent times, FTX has been extremely busy leading huge fundraising rounds for new projects. Aptos and Sui are the two most recent examples. Sam was invincible. Despite Luna causing chaos, he used the situation as leverage to continue an aggressive expansion plan. He bailed out BlockFi for $240 million, made a bid for Voyager's assets, seems to be winning that bid as well, considered bailing out Celsius, but looked at Celsius and noticed, was it a $2 billion balance sheet hole? Stepped away from that deal. Anyway, however, in the background, there were some cracks starting to appear. Eyebrows started to raise when Alameda CEO Sam Trabucco suddenly resigned. As you can see here on August 24th, he announced that on Twitter. Additionally, a month later, FTX president Brett Harrison stepped down on September 27th, and Those regulations occurred just before it was revealed that FTX was facing some legal trouble in the form of a securities regulator probe. SBF has a clear interest in politics, evidenced by his involvement in the upcoming midterm elections, in which he has donated almost $50 million. In this chart, you can see he is actually the 5th highest donator in this list of largest donors to political parties for 2020 midterms. This comes after his plan to donate $1 billion in the 2024 U.S. presidential election, which he later backtracked on. Clearly, Sam has political interests at heart. Although public sentiment was becoming more negative towards Sam, the DCCPA, that's the new digital assets law that they're working on, the bill, that is. The DCCPA draft bill marked a real turning point for the public's perception. A draft of the bill was first leaked online. Sam has seemingly been supporting the bill, but despite Sam trying to play the good guy on Twitter, there were clear red flags throughout the bill which could pose significant threats to DeFi. Multiple key industry figures have spoken out against the bill, most notably BitBoy, who has been working on his own. Eric Voorhees famously quizzed SBF on his stance during a Bankless interview. This clip, which went viral, I'll play for you guys now. I think it's really interesting, telling anyway, led to continued skepticism amongst the crypto community. So check it out right here.
That did mean that, like, essentially a suit front ends by targeting American retail had to be licensed. I think that could be reasonable.
Sam, if the question was, let's acknowledge that the email protocol will be permissionless as a protocol.
Yep.
But it was the law of the land in America that every email front-end provider required KYC from its users.
Yep.
Because under the justification that we do not want people sending information back and forth with terrorists.
Yep.
Where would you stand on that position?
Oh, I'd be strongly against that position.
Why?
Why would I be against it? Because I think it'd be like against freedom of speech. I think it'd be disenfranchising a lot of people. I think I would not trust in practice that it would do a good job. So I agree with you on all of that. Okay. I'm making a distinction here between, for instance, payments versus like derivatives contracts.
Why is Aave somehow different than email?
So, why is it different than email?
You argued so well and so passionately to not block email with licensing and KYC. I loved hearing that.
Yep.
That filled my soul with joy. Such good arguments. Why does that not apply to financial transactions?
So, why does it not apply to financial transactions? I think there are a few things here. So, first of all,
anyway, the public damage for Sam was immense. Sentiment shifted as people realized his intentions may be different from what was first thought. This shift in sentiment was the precursor for what was to come next, and a major contributor behind the severity of the recent FUD. Concerns started to bubble on Wednesday when Alameda's balance sheet was leaked. It was revealed that the net equity in the Alameda business is actually FTX's own centrally controlled and printed out of thin air token, according to Corey Clipston. Dylan Leclerc did a great thread breaking down some of the concerns surrounding the balance sheet. One of the accounts that first called Celsius's collapse published a report titled, "Is Alameda Insolvent?" The report labeled Alameda's situation as precarious, to say the least. That's the Dirty Bubble Media report that we looked at earlier. More rumors started proliferating and the FUD machine entered full force. Allegations of FTX's insolvency started circulating. Then we saw a massive $584 million worth of FTT transferred to Binance. CZ confirmed that it was in fact Binance who executed the transfer. We got full confirmation that Binance was exiting its FTT position yesterday when CZ announced a decision to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books. He said CZ fired shots at Sam, stating that they were selling as a result of learning from Luna. CZ indirectly referenced SBF's lobbying by claiming that he won't support people who lobby against other industry players behind their backs. FTX's primary token FTT dumped as a result, dropping 15% from its weekly highs. However, it has found strong support around the $22 region. Last I checked, it was still there. Caroline, the CEO of Alameda Research, was forced to issue a response to CZ's sale. In my opinion, this response felt desperate and was somewhat of a red flag. We all know what happened last time someone tried to steady the ship when Caroline tagged CZ and basically offered to buy, instead of in the open market, all of those tokens that Binance held directly for them at a price of $22. You can see here, if you're looking to minimize the market impact on your FTT sales, Alameda will happily buy it all from you today at $22. A little suspicious for sure. FTT isn't the only worry though. Alameda holds many more tokens which could be subject to downside pressure if the situation worsens. So you can see they have tokens like Render, they have ETH, they have quite a sizable amount of ETH, they have Uni tokens and so on. The FUD surrounding FTX has resulted in staggering outflows as people rush to withdraw funds. The threat of a bank run was looming yesterday as some people were forced to wait 4 hours to process withdrawals. Seems a little bit shady as well. Sam recently issued a response stating that FTX is fine and the assets are fine. He wrote here, a competitor is trying to go after us with false rumors. FTX is fine. Assets are fine. We know what's happened before. For example, right before Celsius went under, you had the CEO saying everything was fine, like the day before they froze withdrawals. So this doesn't necessarily work anymore in crypto to make people feel better. However, I'm treating the situation with caution, as when there's smoke, there's often fire. The chances of FTX being insolvent are quite slim, but why take chances in crypto when there's viable alternatives? So it is the case now that people, just in case, even if it's just like a 1% chance that because of all this, maybe people freaking out and pulling out funds, maybe FTX does become insolvent, even if there's a 1% chance, why not do some sort of risk management, especially if there's some other platform you can go to other than FTX. So it could be the case that just this drama creates some sort of insolvency situation with them. It does seem that even CZ of Binance does think that it is legitimate that FTX might not have much in the way of funds. He actually retweeted this. So he retweeted when Caroline was offering to buy from Binance all those FTT at $22. And also this part where Key Young Jew wrote, FTX's stablecoin reserve just reached a year low. $51 million as of now, down 93% over the last 2 weeks. You can see that straight elevator down there, fall off of a cliff. And CZ Binance had said, well, what are they going? With what money are they going to buy at $22 those FTT tokens? You know, shrugs. So he's basically saying that he does feel like they just don't have the money to even afford that. But it was the case that CZ Binance has basically just said, you know, it's time. It's not because of these reports. He's kind of downplayed a lot of this. He's trying to kick a competitor while they're down. He wrote, liquidating RFTT is just post-exit risk management. Learning from Luna. We gave support before, but we won't pretend to make love after divorce. We are not against anyone, but we won't support players who lobby against other industry players behind their backs. Onwards. So it has been a bit of back and forth here. You have Sam Bankman-Fried like, okay, I just want to build, right? I'm even willing to work with Binance here despite everything, but it's just been shots fired back and forth. SBF saying a competitor is trying to go after us with false rumors, and Binance, CZ's Binance, a competitor tried to go after us with political lobbyists. So just again, a battle for the ages between these two major players in crypto. But it is quite suspicious, right? Again, somewhat this attempt at a purchase yesterday or an offer in a public space like Twitter by Caroline for $22. Adam Cochran wrote here on Twitter, the other big question is, why is the book value of $22 a token worth it to them? Why not let it dump and keep the capital for other opportunities and buy it later? Should it really actually hurt FTX or Alameda if the token dumps temporarily? Not unless it's collateral, right? That could be a major lifeline for them, for example. And if it gets cut off, the price dumps too much, that could really impact their business and their credit lines in a major way. So the last we've been hearing about all of this is from SBF. As I mentioned, he said, I'd love it, CZ Binance, if we could work together for the ecosystem. He said FTX is fine, assets are fine. But he did kind of retweet this, which is a little bit odd to me here, 11 hours ago by Moon Overlord on Twitter. Who wrote, can't wait for my FTX airdrop for not moving any of my funds. So it's almost like he's on the side trying to say there's going to be some sort of airdrop of some sort of token if you don't move funds off the exchange. But why, if you're completely fine, would you try to convince people to keep funds on your platform? No real promise of an airdrop, by the way. Just retweeting something like this in an effort to basically stop the bank run. Something about that seems also a little bit suspicious for me. But that's the most that I've seen he's tried to stop the bleeding for the most part. Anyway, that is the FTX drama that's playing out. If there's something else that you found or you believe, feel free to share it down in the comments below. But we are going to go ahead and get into some other news right now. Eric is super articulate. He is amazing when it comes to any sort of debate, and a great spokesperson who was able to even shut down SBF. Really good point there, Renee. Thanks for sharing that. So there was a huge seizure that was announced today. We had a gentleman named George Zong, and James Zong, and he pled guilty to committing wire fraud in September 2012. So over a decade ago, when he pulled in 2021, when the U.S. Department of Justice were able to seize with the special agent in charge of the Internal Revenue Service and criminal investigation, they were able to seize what was $3.36 billion worth of Bitcoin cryptocurrency from this gentleman who had stolen that amount of Bitcoin, actually quite a bit amount of Bitcoin, maybe not all of that, but over $50,000 from Silk Road, the darknet marketplace, which was founded by Ross Ulbricht, who is now serving 2 life sentences in jail without possibility of parole. But anyway, this individual was able to basically deposit, he created like 9 different accounts, deposited different sums of Bitcoin into it, and then asked to withdraw that Bitcoin almost immediately without placing any sort of orders or adding too much information on the darknet marketplace. And within the span of like 5, here's an example, right? So as an example, on September 19, 2012, Zong deposited 500 Bitcoin into a Silk Road wallet. Less than 5 seconds after making the initial deposit, Zong executed 5 withdrawals of 500 Bitcoin in rapid succession, i.e. within the same second. Almost like the re-entrancy attack that we saw with the DAO on Ethereum. Reminds me of that. Resulting in a net gain of 2,000 Bitcoin. As another example, a different fraud account made a single deposit and over 50 Bitcoin withdrawals before the account ceased its activity. Anyway, he moved all that Bitcoin out of Silk Road that he pulled out into 2 high value accounts. Anyway, so this money was seized in 2021. There was an additional 1,000 plus Bitcoin that were seized just recently, as Zong has been working with the prosecutors and the investigators to give them even more of the money that he has basically done. But he was basically someone who had the steelest of hands holding Bitcoin till it went up to $3.36 billion. He had a bunch of money or a Bitcoin that he had split into Bitcoin Cash back in 2017. He sold all the Bitcoin Cash that he had and turned that into Bitcoin, earning an approximately 3,500 other Bitcoin that he held onto. He went ahead and seems to have gotten himself quite a lot of things. He got himself real estate holdings, so they're trying to forfeit all of that. 80% interest in REND Investments. That has real estate holdings, $661,900 in US dollar currency that was seized from his house on November 9, 2021. A bunch of metal that he had, 4 1-ounce silver-colored bars. Bars are pretty big. 3 1-ounce gold color bars, etc. He had 25 Cassius coins, which you can't really find anymore, but they're basically physical Bitcoins that have the private key right on them. They had an approximate value of 174 Bitcoin, 20, just additional more Bitcoin than that. So this is being seen as some sort of state-of-the-art cryptocurrency investigation that has managed to work out in the favor of the investigators, and also just classic police work that has led to all of this. But it's quite crazy that even a decade afterwards, he was not able to get away with this, which is, as it says here, it remains the department's second largest financial seizure ever, and the largest cryptocurrency seizure in the history of the Department of Justice. Rather insane. There were some pictures that you can find that were attached as exhibits on that release. You can see here the safe and some of the Cassius coins that he had, and it looks like some silver, perhaps, or those are the coins, I suppose, in there. But what is of note is that he kept most of this in his house. Where is it? All right. Let me see if I can search for it. I can't find it right there. The statement from the U.S. Attorney Damian Williams had said, James Zong committed wire fraud over a decade ago when he stole approximately 50,000 Bitcoin from Silk Road. For almost 10 years, the whereabouts of this massive chunk of missing Bitcoin had ballooned into an over $3.3 billion mystery. Thanks to the state-of-the-art cryptocurrency trading and good old-fashioned police work, law enforcement located and recovered this impressive cache of crime proceeds. This case shows that we won't stop following the money, no matter how expertly hidden, even to a circuit board in the bottom of a popcorn tin. That's where he had stored some of the money, billions of dollars right there in his home. Quite insane, this seizure. So even though it looks like some of this money might have belonged to Silk Road, it's the government filed a motion of entry of an amended preliminary order of forfeiture. So basically, even though all that Bitcoin is supposed to belong to Silk Road, which doesn't exist anymore, the government's like, actually, no, that belongs to us. So again, the government is quite a big holder of Bitcoin here. So that's something that's played out today. And the other big news is LBRY losing their case against the SEC that has been ongoing for quite some time now. LBRY has been building out and working on, and already exists, a decentralized alternative to YouTube. That has this LBRY token that can be used as a utility for various services, but has now been labeled as some sort of investment contract according to the courts that are seeing that it is in fact a security, which means it could not be sold unless it's authorized by some broker that's authorized to sell securities, some sort of exchange that's authorized to sell securities. And as far as I know, there's no exchange in crypto that's really like that. So you're unlikely to find LBRY at reputable exchanges anymore available to US customers, although you might find it on other exchanges. And I thought it would have been interesting if it was like some sort of Ethereum-based token rather than its own blockchain, the LBRY blockchain. You could probably wouldn't have any sort of issues because of this ruling. You could probably find on some sort of decentralized exchange or AMM like Uniswap, and they would not have issues with liquidity and price, but it's just not the case right now with LBRY. Unfortunately, they wrote, "We lost. Sorry, everyone. We're going to lick our wounds for a little bit, but we're not giving up. We've got a bright team, tens of millions of pieces of content, hundreds of thousands of creators, and one of the most popular Web3 apps in the world. The best is yet to come." So they're not giving up completely, although they're expected to be facing some steep fines for having sold these unregistered securities. At least that's what the court is saying. I'm hearing there is room for appeal here in the court of New Hampshire, where this was ruled. The full ruling in the SEC versus LBRY case can be read. LBRY shared on Twitter. The language used here sets an extraordinarily dangerous precedent that makes every cryptocurrency in the US a security, including Ethereum. And I think it could be the case for pretty much everything unless it is actually Bitcoin, which never sold anything, right? They were mined into existence. There was no central foundation. You have, for example, the Ethereum Foundation that I guess could have had some sort of sale. You could say that they sold the securities, although that is argued against by some, right? Like our number 4 here on ETH Finance wrote, so if Ether is ruled a security because it had an ICO and more than 5 years have passed statute of limitations, can't go after it after a certain period for certain crimes, right? You can't prosecute. Is it in the clear? Most people seem to be concentrating on the ICO part to call it a security. And Set One Less wrote, yeah, I would like to know from a U.S. securities lawyer how the limitations apply to Ethereum and token ICOs in general. In LBRY's case, the ruling is that the token sale is for a security token and it was unregistered. Hence, SEC has sought fines for that, huge fines. It does not say that the token is currently a security. I believe ETH ICO wasn't even held in the US. Maybe someone can clarify. But anyway, I think that it is interesting when you're looking at some of the language here in the case, in the documentation about what made LBRY a security. Take a look at this section, for example. The problem for LBRY is not just that a reasonable purchaser of LBC LBRY coin would understand that if the tokens being offered represented investment opportunities, even if LBRY never said a word about it. See, even if LBRY had never said it was some sort of investment or anything around that, which apparently like 0.5% of their language had ever made some sort of reference to that, or even less than that, it doesn't matter. Even if they hadn't said anything like that, it could still be considered a security. It is that by retaining hundreds of millions of LBC for itself, so holding on to that, LBRY also signaled that it was motivated to work tirelessly to improve the value of its blockchain for itself and any LBC purchasers. This structure, which any reasonable purchaser would understand, would lead purchasers of LBC to expect that they too would profit from their holdings of LBC as a result of LBRY's assiduous efforts. Simply put, by intertwining LBRY's financial fate with the commercial success of LBC, LBRY made it obvious to its investors that it would work diligently to develop the network so that LBC would increase in value. As LBRY themselves said, over the long term, the interests of LBRY and the holders of credits are aligned. The SEC's burden is made all the easier by statements LBRY made about its managerial efforts, like how the long-term value proposition of LBRY is dependent on our team staying focused on the task at hand, building this thing, since one of the prongs of the Howey test requires that you have some sort of central promoter or someone who's really working on the project to help the investment for everyone. By its own account, LBRY expended significant managerial efforts to develop its network and increase the value of LBC. So that's what I found interesting as well, is they point at how LBRY held on to a percentage of those tokens, and that seems to be one of the things that was pointed at here, and I think applies to so many other foundations and so many other teams in cryptocurrency who have reserved an allocation of tokens for building something out, even if there's some sort of diversity in nodes or something else. I don't know, clients. Still the case that if you have some sort of foundation, it could have been some sort of security, especially if they originally sold them. So this implicates a lot of tokens. I'm hearing a lot from right now the XRP crowd, who are increasingly getting concerned when things were looking better for them, perhaps in the case against the SEC. Now this might be setting precedent. Now we have actual documentation that could be used in the case against Ripple by the SEC that could make XRP a security, and it could apply to many other tokens. What is really troubling here is that we still do not hear with clarity really about what constitutes a security or what they're really looking for specifically from the SEC. So it is in a way still regulation by enforcement. They still would rather handpick projects to go after, it appears, rather than making it clear to exchanges what they can list specifically, maybe listing 100 different tokens that would be securities versus like 100 that might not. Just let us know if the entire space is a security, right? Would that not be a little bit better? So this is striking fear, I think, in some of the industry. It is stifling innovation here because you don't know if the project you're doing might end up costing you quite a lot because you get charged by the SEC. So this is quite troubling. I think it's disappointing to see this result, and it's something that I think will put pause on many projects and could potentially affect, I think, the entire space, unless, of course, it's Bitcoin. So I think the Bitcoiners here would be cheering for this. But as I pointed out, even Bitcoin was down today. And it's interesting, we have the SEC supposedly here to protect the American citizen, right, from foul investments, when really what they've done is hurt LBRY credits holders today here, where it's down 13.5%. Let me actually refresh here. What the heck just happened? It's down 96.9%. That's probably because the markets that were here on CoinGecko just delisted LBRY credits. But wow, to see that in real time, that is insane. Build on Ethereum, folks. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, that is the show that I have for you guys today. I want to know your opinions on anything. I know it's been a rather long one, so I don't want to drag it out much further, but oh my God. Nice job, SEC. Way to protect everybody. Oh, wow, look, there's even a warning up here. Exercise caution when trading LBC, as the SEC recently charged the company for conducting an unregistered offering of digital asset securities. It's a brand new day in crypto, folks, I suppose. But I will leave you all with this quote of the day, which I think applies to the situation here. I don't think this is some sort of death knell at all for the cryptocurrency space at all, so, though some will try to say that, of course. But here we are. An arrow can only be shot by pulling it backward. When life is dragging you back with difficulties, it means it's going to launch you into something great. So just focus and keep aiming. Keep building. Biddling. Take care, everyone. Much love. Thank you for joining me today, and stay cryptic. Peace.